Coming home? Well, when we came back from Korea, we sailed under the, what's the bridge out there? San Francisco Bay Bridge or whatever. And we sailed into San Francisco. And on the dock, there were hundreds of people who were mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters of the Marines that were coming back.
Yeah.
And of course, I lived on the East Coast, so no one was there to welcome me back. But I had friends that lived in California that I met in the service, and I went and spent some time with them at their home before we were sent down to San Diego, where we got on new orders where to report. Well, I knew going over there when the Chinese came into the war, it was going to last a while.
Yeah.
But we went there to free South Korea. That was our main objective. And of course, it dragged on for 3 years, and nobody won the war, and it was a stalemate.
Yeah.
And he finally signed the treaty, and that was the end of that.
Just about home when you were at war.
The most I thought about home?
Yeah.
Well, of course, I thought about my family, my mother, my brothers, sisters. And, I know they all worried about me. And when my 2 older brothers were in World War II, we all worried about them.
Yeah.
They both went in 1941. We never saw them again until 1945.
Wow.
One was in the Pacific and one was in Europe fighting.
So you knew what it felt like to worry
well,
about family?
They were back before I went into the Marines, and they told me what to expect when they knew I was going to Korea. They were very happy, of course.
Yeah.
I had one sister that worked in a local factory in the town where I lived at that time in Bayonne. And when my mother called her, she left work, come right over, and of course got all the hugs and kisses and everything from the family members. It was exciting being back. I'll tell you a funny story about that. While I was in Korea, my family moved from where we used to live to a new home. And when I came back, it was like 4:30 in the morning when I got to Bayonne. And I went to a diner. I didn't want to wake everybody up in the house at that hour. I figured I'd wait till 8 o'clock when I know they're up, they went to work or whatever. And when I come in, I knew the house, and I walked down and went in. I opened the door and I walked in the house. It wasn't my family's house, it was the neighbor. But he knew who I was. They were expecting me to come home that day. And I said, geez, I'm sorry, I got the wrong house. And he said, no, that's okay. Your family lives right next door.
Yeah.
And he had a son that was in the Air Force at the same time in Korea that I was there. So
That's
it was
cool.
a big error on my part, but it was happy, everything was fine. Well, it certainly makes a man out of a boy.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about that. You don't, as a young man growing up, you don't see people killed every day or blown apart.
Yeah.
And you see this in war. And something you get used to after a while. When you first see it, of course, you're very upset.
Yeah.
But as you spend a lot of time fighting, things change.
Yeah.
And you get used to it. I don't think so. I think I had all my same friends, of course, and went and hung out with them, and everything seemed to be the same, except for the year and a half I was gone, I was missing all of that.
Yeah.
Not too much went on, but everything was fine.
Okay.
All right. I was in the 7th replacement draft to go to Korea. And when you get there, they assign you to different platoons and companies where men were killed and they needed replacements. And the company I went into, the sergeant said it was about 7 o'clock at night when we got into these companies, and it was getting dark. And the first sergeant said, you know, find a spot and throw down your poncho which you slept on, and we'll talk in the morning. They were in a rest area at this time. So I did that, and the next day when the sergeant come over to talk to me, I says, what smells around here? It really stinks. He said, well, I don't know. He says, pack up your gear and we're moving. And as I did that, he says, oh, that's the problem. You slept on a dead Chinese. I guess it was around April of '51. I took out a platoon, not a platoon, but a squad of 10 men to go up and find out, if we could, where the enemy was located. So Korea's all mountains, and we had to climb up a big mountain to look to the mountains in front of us. And as we were doing that, the lead man kicked the tripwire and a grenade come rolling down the hill.